made it home from work. One of the things I've been trying to figure out now for quite a while is why is it only taking about 15 minutes to get to work, but driving home is about 45 minutes? So whoever keeps moving my house, I'd appreciate it if you'd knock it off, because I don't have time to be messing with that stuff. I'd like to get home and get back to playing with these things a whole lot quicker. But today what we're going to dig around here with is settings of body panel gaps. Now there's a lot of opinions, do's, don'ts, how's, why's, and how, maybe, whatever's, but I'm going to show you how I do it. I get some really good results, where you start, but with the goal of, getting the body panels where they don't interfere while operating. You don't want the hood banging into the cowl or the fenders when you open and shut it. You don't want the door chipping the paint off the edge of the front of the door when it smacks into the fender, but you also want the gaps so big you can put your hands inside to work on the car without opening the door. So there's a few schools of thought on this. Now GM gives you a specification of like, so big or so big, but that gets you pretty close. But I like to get them dialed in even tighter, but that requires maybe some welding and some hammering, some modifications. But mostly because these panels, as you can see, the fenders are white, the doors are black, and you can tell a lot of the sheet metal has been replaced. So we don't have all OEM components on this car. Not the end of the world, but even then, the original equipment stuff, well, didn't always fit that great either. But sometimes you have to add some metal to the edge of the door, or even the quarter panel, do some sectioning. Now that's where you want to get them dialed in all nice and even top to bottom. Those are the extra details to me that sets the car apart. So that's what I plan to do. But before we do that, we're going to start with just the mechanical adjustments. Get everything lined up best we can for what we have to work with. And then we start adding or subtracting metal from the edges. One of the things that I don't do, and I don't think it's a good idea, which I see it happening, this is just my opinion though, on the edge of the door jambs, I've seen people take body filler and fill in the gap, stand it straight, and it actually looks pretty good. And it seems to be the norm for some folks, but as soon as you hit it once, it chips, falls off, then you got one hell of a mess. So I don't like doing it that way. I like to adjust the metal or work the edge of the door to fill in the gap. But that's how I'll do it in the end. But first off, let me show you how we get this thing going. That's what we're going to get started with here today. And after my little spring cleaning up, so you saw me kind of slap the sheet metal on this car, but let's say to start with. Now, looking from here to the camera, this doesn't look all too awful bad. Our gap here in the front, a little wide, you could say, but actually lines up pretty good. But by the time I get back here to the back, there is no gap. I probably couldn't get a credit card between this. This is definitely not good. So this is going to be a problem if I left it this way. So even the same here, door gap, awful. A little fat through here, gets really bad down here. We almost got almost a ½ inch or 3/8 of an inch gap. So this isn't how we're going to leave it. But step one to me setting it all up is I need to set the width of the fenders from side to side. I can't have it touching there and there because I don't have the fenders far enough from the body. And there's actually a shim pack, or I can stack some shims on the bolt that's mounted behind this fender. I want to equally bring these fenders out to set my gap here. That's going to be my starting point. Maybe that's not where you start, but that's where I like to start first, because I've gone through all the trouble of dialing in this door all beautiful and perfect and get the door in here and get the fender tucked up in, and this is the exact problem I have. Crap, my hood hits the fender. And then I got to start all over. I got to bring the fender out. And then I bring the door out. So I get this kind of close. I'm going to take the bolt loose, tuck maybe a 1/8 inch shim on this side, 1/8 inch shim on the driver's side, and see where that gets us at. That's not going to be a start point. And then I'm going to dial in the doors. You know what I have here? This is actually a sorted body shim kit, different sizes, different shapes, different thicknesses. And I'm starting to run a little low on those ones there. Like I said, I'm going to grab a couple 1/8 inch ones here. Put one on each fender, see if that gets us a little more good or close to what I want to start with. See if we get this thing working. That sounds great. Now, what we're talking about, there's a bolt right here. Right now, I've got this thing pulled up tight to the body. That's why I have absolutely no room to get the hood open and shut. So just take that fastener loose, slide in a shim. I might need maybe more, but let's put this 1/8 inch one in there, see where that gets us. Now, the kind of interesting part is I'm going to go through all this trouble and get everything all set, all the gaps all pretty and happy, and then I take the car completely 100% back apart again and throw the shim inside the door somewhere. It's gone. Then once we get the car all blown apart, paint it, then put it all back together. What I'll do is once I get my shims dialed in and figure out what I need, I'll tape them all together and label them, and then I'll use those shims when I reassemble the car. But I have no idea where that went. But nonetheless, I'm gonna grab another one. Okay, got this shim in here. This is an 1/8 inch. I want to show you what that gets us. The cool part not having a windshield is I can reach right through here and show you what we got. Now look at this. I have a little bit of a gap between the cowl and the fender. I could probably get a credit card in here, but that's a little close for tolerance. So if that hood were to bounce around, I'm going to chip the paint. So I think I need to add maybe a 1/16 of an inch more. I think I need just a little more gap because the driver's side over here is still 100% touching that fender. So we'll grab one more little shim. Man, I think the one just fell out that I dropped earlier. All right, so we'll do 1/16, see where that gets us. All right, got the shims in there. We'll snug this up and recheck the gap and see what we ended up with. If I can get that bolt to go. Of course, now I'm gonna set the gap first. First, I gotta go up, in, down, all around, but I'm just trying to get the gap established here between the fender and the hood. Now that is respectable. Now we're talking, that's a little tighter than GM tolerance probably. I got a little way to check that, but we're gonna get things really close and we're gonna keep working on dialing this in. But I think we'll start on the other side. I put an 1/8 and a 1/16 in it. See if we get this side to match up. Like I said, the driver's side here, you probably couldn't get a piece of paper between these two. I wanted to show you before we started. So I'm gonna put same thing, an 1/8 and a 1/16 in that and see if we get a little better gap between the cowl and the fender. I said, once we get this established, then we'll start doing all the other dimensions. All right, done the same thing here. Got the 1/8 and a 1/16 in there, and then I've got a nice even gap between the cowling and the fender. The hood's still a little tight, but I'd be surprised you move that fender out just a little bit. It's really gonna clean that up, but I think it's gonna be our starting point. So that gets a nice even spacing from the body on the fenders. That's gonna be where I can say I'm gonna start adjusting everything as for the width of the doors. All right, we're gonna move to the doors now. I'm gonna stand back here so you can kind of see how awful it kind of is. But the door itself, of course the gap is not great here, but what I wanna do with the door, I like to line up with the front edge of the rocker panels. When I weld this car together, I actually had this all bolted together and actually adjusted pretty good with the exception of the distance this direction. So I didn't have that dialed in. So my door forward and backwards to the car is great, but we're actually way too low. That door is sitting on the rocker panel. So I need to move the door up. You got a little adjustment here on the cowl panel on the hood, the door hinges. You can bring it up that way. And even on the front edge of the door, I could dial in the front of the door a little bit too. But I don't need to move the door, let's say, forward and backwards, just up. And when it gets to the back here, not much different. I had made a mark here. This is a little reminder. The gap at the top, it's going to need some adjustments. I'm going to have to either cut the quarter panel or add edge to the edge of the door. I haven't quite decided yet, but the rest of the gap is decent. And even now my door height, though, you can look at it here, not the same height. So that's about the gaps that I need to even get the bottom. So I need to bring the door basically just straight up. Got a couple ideas on how to do that. But the other thing with the door is, man, we're a little tight right here. So I'm hoping if you look at the door, it's kind of hard to get all this stuff on camera, but you can see the fenders hanging out further than the door now. So I need to bring the door out and up. So I want to loosen up the hinges just on the door, not the cowl part of it, but just the door, and see if I can't slide that up and out a little bit and see if I can't get this thing dialed in a little better. And the bolts that I'm talking about are here, 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 and you got the same thing on the lower hinge. There's bolts inside the hinge here. So we're gonna take those loose with the idea of hoping to get this door to slide up and out a little bit. And this is where it's kind of cool if you have a friend come over and give you a hand, because it kind of helps hold the door. But I didn't actually plan to do this evening, but it was 64 degrees, nice and warm today after work, and I just couldn't say no to coming out and playing cars with you guys. Some of this stuff gets a little mundane, a little not always the most exciting, but these are little things that really set your car apart, taking care of these little details. So I got that all loose. So now we'll see if I can't manipulate this door, then we'll try to snug up a couple of bolts and keep adjusting it from there. Here's one of the things I was trying to show you here. On the fender and the door, it doesn't look all that bad out through this camera, but I'll tell you in person, this thing is absolutely 100% atrocious. So I'm trying to get you an idea how bad it is. I'm trying to, I guess, like a bit of a learning curve. Building the car is no problem. I'm showing you guys on camera what I'm trying to combat against. I can't always get, but obviously the white part's the fender. Here's the door, but you can see this gap. It is not even close. There's my finger dancing behind it. We're nearly a quarter inch off. That's what I'm trying to get adjusted or dialed out. The other thing we got to keep in mind while we're doing this, we've got three major body lines. Basically the top here, and then right here, and then where it lines up with the bottom of the door. But we need to nail this point and this point. Height-wise, we're not too bad off. So when I pull the door out, I gotta maybe kind of keep it up at the same time. So that's what I'm gonna try to do here, and we'll get this where the straight edge lays across the door and everything nice and straight. So I'm gonna help you guys visualize what I'm trying to do. All right, so I got these hinges loose, so I should be able to just kind of grab the door, bump it out, and kind of pick up on it. Actually, looks a million times better already. I think the door back here is close, but a little higher. Now my door is actually out a little too far now. If I put this on here, I'm not going to grab you guys, but I've got about an 1/8 inch gap. So now we just kind of give a little bump. And now I'm making some progress. Got the door dialed in a whole lot more gooder now. Still got to do some tweaking on it here, but the door actually lines up pretty good height-wise. The top of it, the door is nice. The inside of that quarter panel needs probably a little hammering on, and we'll dial in this gap, but looking pretty good. When I shut the door, lines up pretty good top to bottom. Got a little work to do here. That's what I have highlighted when I put them on, but line up pretty good. I got a nice even gap on the bottom of the door now. So that's looking like I need to get it where I like it. And then the lines up here with the front edge of the rocker panel. I still get a nice gap in here. So now I'd say the door is adjusted. The next step is going to be dial the fender in to match the door. That's going to be the next thing. And something else that's just one of these things that food for thought. That little doohickey right there. That's a door latch striker. That is not a door height adjuster. You got worn out hinges or adjusted hinges, do not use this to bring the door up. So the door is saggy. Pretty simple, right? Take that loose, bring it up, slam the door shut, door kicks up into place, everything's great. Except for that wears out your latch, wears out your striker, and the doors don't shut right. If you get this all dialed in right and adjusted right, you should be able to open your door effortlessly and then push it shut with a fingertip. Nice, firm cut closing. So it shouldn't have any issues. And the goal is with a nice, clean, even gap like this when you're done. So that's what I'm trying to do over here, but I'm gonna say door, we'll give it about an A. We gotta do some tweaking on that edge there, but I highlighted that when I installed the quarter panel. So the next thing is dial the fender in now to match the door, and it's actually not too far off. We got a little bit of a height difference and a gap difference. We gotta bring the fender kind of, I can say back and towards the back of the car a little bit. So it's gonna take some tweaking and some shimming, but by the time it's all said and done, this gap will shut up and close up quite a bit. Okay, now I've already shimmed the fender from the body inside here. A little tight here, but this might just because it's a replacement door skin, so that may be something I modify. But I think at this point though, there's 2 bolts that attach this fender to the body. They're down here. And we've got one rusty old bolt there, and one right here. Now you can shim these up and down, and then we can actually bring the fender in and out, but I think at this point I'm just going to take it loose and try to slide the fender back because our height isn't really out of whack. It's the distance. So I'm going to try to take these loose and slide the fender back and see what that gets us. I'm going to climb under here. I was trying to get the fender adjusted and can't quite get the fender to slide back far enough because my gap here is just way too wide. But looking at it down here, get you in here, look at the bolt hole relationship to where I got to go. Every time you put the bolt in the spot where it goes, I'm hitting here, so I need to just kind of a little buzz that thing out just so it gets a little more clearance. Now, the gap on this side is a little wide, but me, welded these fender patches on a couple of years ago, and now we're getting it back together, but I just need a little more clearance to get the fender to go towards the rear of the car. So I got a little tool to take care of that. Call that the burr bit here. Now these things make some really sharp little slivers. I absolutely hate them, but I'm just going to do a little buzzing on this here, get me a little more adjustment. Okay, well, I got that hole cleaned up a little bit, add a little distance. Kind of hit it there, but we'll go ahead and put the bolt back in. And I bet you now I can slide the fender back a whole lot farther. There we go. And that gap's a lot more like what I was looking for. Well, notched out the front of that fender, or the bottom part, that helped out a whole lot. This gap's looking pretty decent. A little tight here, but I think I need to actually hammer the door skin back out. This is when I hammer the door skin on. And I've got the gap a little weird here, so I think when we hammer this, it's going to look a whole lot better, but looking pretty even. A little wide through here. Again, probably going to blame that a little bit on the door skin. Same down here, not bad. Now, we're not too far off what General Motors would probably say is acceptable, but we're not going to call that good yet. But our gap here is right on the money, so we're going to do some probably adding and subtracting of some metal here on the front edge of this door to dial it in. For the most part, these are rendered almost perfectly worthless and not good. They get so hard as rock, they're not really good for sanding anymore. And to be honest with you, they're not necessarily the best sanding blocks, but they serve a purpose. I use them for on my jacks to jack a car up, and I want to use it for this technique here because, well, it doesn't mar the paint. A chunk of 2x4 works just the same. But what I'm going to do is, we discovered this is called this back corner. We've got 4 corners on the door. This corner is too high. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put the rubber block here on the bottom, push on the door, essentially I'm just going to get this corner to fold in. You'd be surprised how much flex these things have in them. So we're going to just kind of wedge this in the door jamb down here. Just going to give this door a little twist here in the top corner. And then as you can see, it didn't take much. Now we're actually square on all 4 corners. Well, so here's where we're at. On the camera, it doesn't really show you all the detail, but if you go to a car show, you'll see the differences. But nice even gap, doors lining up pretty good. Height-wise, everything, we're parallel to the quarter panel. A little something right here. I may hammer the edge of the door to get that thing to line back up, but you get the idea. We're getting really close by just mechanical adjustment. Same thing here on the front gap. It's a little snug here, so I probably need to move the top of the fender forward just a little bit. But other than that, it's starting to pull together pretty good. Our height here, line up real nice to the door and the fender. So not needing a whole lot of work on that for, say, fine tuning, but I'm gonna work this edge a little bit. It's a little rough when I put the patch in. So I typically weld on the edge of the fender here to get the height that I need. So I'll do a video on that at some point too. And when it comes to hoods, that's kind of where we're at now. That's gonna be the next big step. But I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna do that as a whole separate video to get these hinges working, get the hood line up, because here's something I'm running into on this hood. And I'm sure any repop hood, and even original hood, you're gonna probably see the same thing. Check your height here. We're actually the same height as the fender here. Kind of hard to tell in the camera, but trust me on that. When we get here to the middle, there's a difference in height, where the hood is actually higher than the fender. And by the time I get back to the front, it's actually a little bit low, so if I bump it up, it makes it even worse. So basically, the center of my hood is too tall. I stand back here, you can kind of see it. There's a way to tweak and adjust that too. But like I said, that'll be a whole separate video, how to make your aftermarket or factory GM hood fit a whole lot more gooder. So there you have it. As for body panel gapping mechanical adjustments, that thing's looking a whole lot more gooder. Hood's gonna be next, but we're gonna do that as a separate video. And then of course your pile of tools, that one there probably was a necessity, it's kind of a joke, but those who know, well, they'll probably get a chuckle out of it. But besides all that, got that part done. I said the next step is I may do a whole separate video on how to tweak that hood, get it lined up a whole lot more better. And once all the mechanical adjustments are within, say, Vinyl Village Garage spec, well, we're gonna dial them in even tighter. So maybe it wasn't Vinyl Village Garage spec. Maybe that's just GM spec. The next level is Vinyl Village Garage spec. Well, anyway, I make this up as I go. I just got all the stuff in here trying to get it out, and, you know, no script, just having some fun playing old Firebirds, playing cars, or, you know, never too old to play with cars. Used to have a t-shirt that said that, but it's gone. But besides all that, I said enough. I've had a lot of fun tinkering here. Fantastic, beautiful day. I may clean up my mess in the shop. It's not too bad. I'm going to try to keep it clean because I don't like it when it's messy. So anyway, I'm going to stop talking. I'm rambling on, but next thing up, do a little hood tweaking on the car here, get it lined up more good. And of course, any part you guys want to see during this process, let me know. I know the front bumper is a big one. Y'all want to know how to get that thing tuned in, dialed in, make it look real pretty? Well, it's on the list. Don't you worry. We'll take care of it. Now, there's a lot of adjustments on those, but we'll see if we can get through it, get you educated, so when you go to do yours at home, you get a whole lot more gooder results, or super happy with the fitment, because it can be done. Just takes a little time. But nonetheless, had a lot of fun. Of course, anything else, if you could, help me out, hit the subscribe button, like, share with your friends, or tell me I'm a complete moron. I'm okay with that too, because it counts as a comment, and that's what's good for YouTube and keeps them happy. I hope you don't call me that. But besides all that, anyway, had a lot of fun. I'm going to get the heck out of here, and we'll catch you guys next time.